Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. I'm returning to you tonight for this album review. This is pretty much the last album that I wanted to catch up on to review and let you know my thoughts on it for Enrique Iglesias' last record, his 12th and final record for Final Volume 2, the last of the final series for the double records that he dropped. The first one came out in September of 2021, but this one came out March 29th of this year. So I'm going to discuss what I listened to for the 10 tracks for Enrique Iglesias' Final Volume 2 and let you know my thoughts on this record overall. So let's dive into this album review. Now it starts with Así es la vida, Así es la vida, featuring Maria Becerra, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. Pretty good song. The harmonizing in it was really good from Enrique and Maria, and I really enjoyed both their vocals harmonizing in this track. So this track flowed very well, and it was a nice track. So a 4.75 out of 5 is what I'm gonna give it. Freya featuring Yo Tool. I think this one was decent. It repeated Freya a few times, and I just wasn't a fan of that. Melody wasn't bad, but it kind of was a little generic. This track it had some repetition that I wasn't really feeling for. But overall, it's a 4 out of 5 for me for this one. Decent track, probably the least favorite, one of the least favorites from this record, but not so bad. It's just decent at best. Then you get Space in My Heart featuring Miranda Lambert, which was a pretty good song for how it sounds. I'd give it a 4.75 out of 5. Nice track, nice vocal melody and structure, and just the way Miranda Lambert singing from time to time along with Enrique Iglesias. It sounds really good with their harmonizing, so 4.75 out of 5. La Botella featuring El Alfa, I believe is how you pronounce it. I'm trying to say it in the Spanish term, but pretty much with my enunciation with it is what I'm trying to do. Enunciate it right. It's a 4.5 out of 5 for this track. It's one of those tracks that has a lot of EDM, but not to the extent where it's terrible. Just to the point where I dig it, but I don't necessarily think it's one of my favorites, but it's a good track in its own way, so a 4.5 out of 5 is what I'm going to give this song. Love and Pain is probably an above average track. I wasn't feeling for Enrique singing in this track from time to time. I mean, he sounded like he was straining a bit in this song with his vocals. It was kind of a little try hard, but it wasn't terrible, it just was on the fence for me. So 4.25 out of 5 for this track. Not terrible of a song, just not one of the least favorites as well. Then you get to Me Voy Acostumbrando, I believe is how you pronounce it. I think this track was good for how it sounded for the sixth song on the record. So a 4.5 out of 5 is what I'm going to give it. I like Enrique Iglesias' vocals in this track. Did very well for the majority of the time. There's a few cringe points, but other than that, nice track for how it sounds. Como Yo is a good song in its own way. I'm just trying to enunciate it right and pronounce it right. So that's why I'm having a little bit of a tough time trying to pronounce it right. But other than that, Como Yo is a good song in its own way. I think this track sounded nice with the melody and it executed pretty well. 4.5 out of 5. Lorama Un Rio, Orama Un Rio, featuring Belinda, is a good song as well in its own way. Some moments in the track I wasn't sure if I was going to feel for, but the execution is not bad for how the track sounds overall, so a 4.5 out of 5 is what I'm going to give this song. And you get Be Together, which is actually a pretty good track for the overall execution. And I think Enrique sounds really good vocally in this track. And the melody and the mixing and production is pretty strong. So this is a 4.75 out of 5 for the ninth song on the record. Then you get Espacio en tu Corazon. Espacio en tu Corazon, I believe is how you pronounce it. Something like that. But pretty much, it's a good song in its own way. Sorry about my yawning throughout this video. Just a little tired, but I got one more video to get premiered for you guys for the 24th. So pretty much, I think Espacio en tu Corazon is a good song in its own way. The melody sounds nice, but there's a few critiques that I have with the mixing in this track. And the feature artist sounds good in it as well. So 4.5 out of 5 is overdue for this song. So overall, production, mixing, and execution wise, I think this was an average record. I wasn't going to be disappointed with this final Enrique Iglesias album. It is the final album in his career as a music artist, because this is his 12th record, and he stated that the final records were going to be his last. Volume 1 came out a few years ago, and now Volume 2 came out at the end of March this year. And it was an average listen. So if I were to give Enrique Iglesias Final Volume 2 a score, I'm going to give it an average rating of a 7.5 out of 10. It's not bad. It's worth checking out to see what you think of it for yourself. It is his last record, officially, because he only said he was going to do 2 volumes for the final records. And I was impressed with some of them. So, they're not bad records. Just, I think the first one was probably my favorite. The second one, this one, of course, was average. It was in between average and good for the first one. But overall, 7.5 out of 10 for Enrique Iglesias Final Volume 2. This will be on my decent to good albums of 2024 when that special video comes out. I think in the middle of December. So, pretty much 7.5 out of 10 for Enrique Iglesias Volume 2 is a new record that came out on March 29th. I'm sorry I didn't review it sooner. I just got really caught up with a lot of other reviews and lost track of time to review this, and I wanted to find a time to review it, and I guess now was the time. And with that being said, thanks for watching this album review tonight.